In a stunning and unexpected decision, the Supreme Court has struck down the Trump-era tariffs, a move that has sent ripples far beyond Washington, D.C. This historic ruling is already being called one of the most consequential trade decisions in recent memory. Almost immediately, the announcement sent shockwaves through global markets. Investors scrambled to adjust, with stock indices around the world reacting sharply to the news. The uncertainty has left traders and analysts alike trying to predict what comes next for international commerce. The ruling marks a dramatic shift in U.S. trade policy and directly challenges the extent of presidential power over economic decisions. Legal scholars say this decision could set a precedent for how future administrations approach trade and executive authority. For years, these tariffs reshaped global supply chains, raised consumer prices on everyday goods, and triggered a wave of international retaliation. Many countries responded with their own tariffs, escalating trade tensions and impacting businesses worldwide. Today's decision dismantles a key pillar of the America First agenda, creating both uncertainty and opportunity for businesses across the globe. Companies are now reassessing their strategies, weighing the risks and benefits of a new trade environment. The court's verdict reasserts Congress's primary role in regulating foreign commerce, curbing unilateral executive action, and restoring a balance of power between the branches of government. Lawmakers are now expected to play a more active role in shaping future trade policy. Importers and industries burdened by higher costs are breathing a sigh of relief, hopeful that the removal of tariffs will lower expenses and boost their competitiveness in the global market. Meanwhile, domestic producers who benefited from tariff protections are bracing for renewed competition from abroad. Many worry about the impact on jobs and the future of American manufacturing. For everyday Americans, this could mean lower prices at the checkout counter, as imported goods become more affordable. Families may see their dollars stretch further on everything from electronics to groceries. But there's also concern about job uncertainty in sectors that were previously protected by tariffs. Workers in these industries face an unpredictable future as companies adjust to the new reality. The economic playing field has been reset, leaving both the nation and the world to navigate a new, unpredictable landscape. As governments, businesses, and workers adapt, the true impact of this landmark ruling will unfold in the months and years ahead. To truly grasp the Supreme Court's decision on the Trump-era tariffs, it's important to first understand the context and motivations that led to their creation. The story of these tariffs is rooted in a complex web of economic anxieties, political calculations, and shifting global dynamics. We must revisit the origins of the tariffs, which emerged at a time when concerns about America's trade deficit and the loss of manufacturing jobs were dominating headlines and political debates. Many Americans felt that the country's trading partners, especially China, were not playing by the rules, leading to a sense of economic vulnerability. In 2018, President Trump launched what became known as a trade war, targeting not only China, but also some of America's closest allies. His administration argued that these measures were necessary to protect American industries from what he described as unfair competition and predatory trade practices. Trump's message resonated with many workers in traditional manufacturing sectors who felt left behind by globalization. The administration invoked Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, a rarely used provision that allows the president to restrict imports for national security reasons. This was a controversial move, as critics argued that the real motivation was economic, not security-related. As a result, tariffs of 25% on imported steel and 10% on aluminum were imposed. These measures sparked global friction, prompting retaliatory tariffs from other countries and causing significant disruptions to international supply chains. American manufacturers faced higher costs for raw materials, while some industries benefited from reduced foreign competition. Supporters of the tariffs argued that they were necessary to revive U.S. manufacturing and restore economic strength. They believed the tariffs would level the playing field and encourage investment in American industry. Critics, however, warned that the tariffs would ultimately raise costs for consumers, damage key alliances, and risk sparking a broader trade war. The Trump-era tariffs marked a sharp break from decades of bipartisan support for free trade policies. They ignited a fierce debate over their true purpose and long-term impact, with some seeing them as a necessary correction and others as a dangerous step backward. This fundamental clash of views between protectionism and free trade set the stage for a series of legal battles that would ultimately reach the nation's highest courts, shaping the future of American trade policy. Legal challenges to the tariffs began almost immediately, with importers arguing the president had overstepped constitutional bounds. They claimed Section 232 gave the executive too much unchecked power under the guise of national security. Lower courts sided with the government, deferring to presidential authority in foreign affairs. But as evidence mounted that the tariffs were more about economic leverage than security, the case gained traction. Lawmakers from both parties grew concerned about Congress's eroding role in trade. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, signaling a willingness to revisit the balance of power between Congress and the president. The world watched as the stage was set for a historic constitutional showdown. On September 30th, 2025, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 to strike down the tariffs as an unconstitutional overreach. The majority opinion found that national security cannot justify broad economic protectionism without clear congressional approval. Business groups celebrated the decision as a win for free enterprise and the rule of law. Domestic producers and labor unions, however, condemned the ruling, fearing job losses and weakened industry protections. Former President Trump called it a betrayal of American workers. The tariffs are now void, and customs will stop collecting duties immediately. Companies may seek refunds for billions paid, though the process will be complex. The decision fundamentally alters the economic and political landscape in a single stroke. The court's decision recalibrates the balance of power, returning significant trade authority to Congress. Future presidents must now work with lawmakers to enact major trade policies, ending the era of unilateral executive action. Congress is empowered to shape the nation's trade agenda, but must overcome partisan gridlock to act decisively. The ruling limits a key presidential tool for influencing foreign governments and protecting domestic industries. Campaigns promising aggressive tariff use now face higher legal hurdles. Legal scholars see this as a potential turning point, signaling greater judicial skepticism toward expansive executive claims. The precedent could affect other areas, from immigration to military action. This case may be remembered for sparking a constitutional reckoning over presidential power in the 21st century. The economic impact of the ruling will be felt across the U.S. Consumers can expect lower prices on imported goods, easing inflation pressures. Businesses reliant on imports, like automakers and tech firms, will benefit from reduced costs and greater competitiveness. Domestic steel and aluminum producers, however, now face renewed foreign competition and possible job losses. These industries will likely seek new support from lawmakers. The decision brings stability to global supply chains, allowing companies to plan and invest with more confidence. The legal framework now makes it harder for presidents to disrupt trade unilaterally. Overall, the ruling fosters a more predictable and efficient trading system. The Supreme Court's decision is being welcomed by America's trading partners, especially China and the EU. The removal of tariffs is seen as a step toward de-escalating trade tensions and restoring normal relations. Canada and Mexico, once targets of the tariffs, see the ruling as a boost for North American cooperation. China hails the decision but notes that deeper issues remain unresolved. Globally, the ruling is viewed as a reaffirmation of America's commitment to a rules-based trading system. The move away from unilateral tariffs is seen as a victory for international law and cooperation. While challenges remain, the world hopes this signals a new era of stability and partnership with the U.S. The path forward will require careful diplomacy, but optimism is rising. Legal experts are calling this one of the most significant separation of powers decisions in decades, a ruling that will likely be discussed and debated for years to come. The case has sparked intense conversations among scholars, policymakers, and the public about the true limits of presidential authority and the ongoing balance between the executive and legislative branches. The Supreme Court did not strike down Section 232 itself, which allows the president to impose tariffs for national security reasons. Instead, the justices clarified and narrowed its application, stating that it can only be used in response to genuine security threats, not as a tool for economic protectionism or to gain leverage in trade negotiations. This distinction is crucial, as it sets a precedent for how future administrations can interpret and use this powerful statute. Going forward, Any president who wishes to invoke these powers must now provide concrete, credible evidence of a real and immediate security risk. Vague claims or broad assertions will no longer be enough. This new requirement raises the bar for executive action and ensures greater transparency and accountability in the decision-making process. The ruling brings much-needed predictability and stability to U.S. trade policy, which is essential for both domestic and international markets. Investors and business leaders can now make long-term plans with greater confidence, knowing that sudden, sweeping changes to trade rules will be subject to stricter scrutiny and legal standards. While some industries may experience short-term challenges as they adjust to the new legal landscape, the overall economic foundation is now more stable and resilient. Over time, this clarity is expected to foster innovation, competition, and sustainable growth across multiple sectors. This landmark case will undoubtedly be studied in law schools as a textbook example of checks and balances in action, illustrating how the judiciary can rein in executive overreach and protect the constitutional order. Ultimately, it serves as a powerful reminder that no branch of government holds absolute power, not even under the banner of national security. The system of checks and balances remains a cornerstone of American democracy. The effects of this decision will ripple through the legal and political landscape, shaping law and policy for years, if not generations, to come. Its legacy will be felt in every debate over presidential authority and the limits of executive power. The Supreme Court's decision ends a turbulent era of trade wars and opens a new chapter for American trade. The nation must now support workers facing renewed competition while seizing the benefits of open markets. Congress, newly empowered, will lead the debate on future trade policy and agreements. The U.S. has a chance to rebuild trust with allies and strengthen global institutions like the WTO. Strategic competition with countries like China will continue, but on a more stable footing. This moment highlights the strength of American democracy and the power of civic engagement. No single policy or leader is permanent. The rule of law prevails. The responsibility now falls on all of us to shape a future of shared prosperity and open dialogue.